right, welcome to March Madness. That's what's going to happen here.
Yes, welcome back to March Madness. Welcome to it. We'll go through it. It's March 4th, the year 2025. Welcome, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 835.
You got it. And today we're going to lay out our brackets. Not kidding.
We're going to lay out our brackets.
March Madness brackets. No, we're not going to do that. Don't turn it off.
Yeah, don't turn it off. Apologies for last week. Only doing the one cast. My pod track P4 Zoom audio finally croaked. It finally died. Couldn't turn on. Couldn't get anything quick enough. So yeah, that's why we didn't come on this week. But it lived a good life. It lived 30 something. So I did the math, and I think it's 18 cents an episode. So it was well worth it and well worth the investment to be with you here today. But yeah, it's actually after a pretty pleasant last week here. We had some 60s and 70s here. It's back to being rainy and cold. But you know what? That's okay. When you have a little bit of sunshine here and there, it at least helps you withstand the gloominess a little bit better. And that is so helpful. It's when you have a week or 2 weeks straight where you have no reprieve and no end in sight and no sunshine. That's when it starts to eat at you. But yeah, we're back today. Hope you've all had a great start to your March. And it is the March Madness is coming up. We're a month out from what most people consider the kind of the kickoff to the North American racing calendar with Oceanside 70.3, and then you got Texas 70.3, and things are right on the corner. But yeah, before we dove in today, I hope you all had an awesome week and are getting excited about the year ahead of us. Topic for today, what do you want to start with?
We're going. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with you want to go with your list? I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through Training Peaks this weekend, and sometimes I'll try to take notes and regurgitate some thoughts that I had, that may be crossover thoughts or general thoughts that I hear from multiple people and things like that. And I just wrote out what I call the list of 10 quotes that I hope that would, apply to someone, or at least one of them or two of them may hit based on what they did this weekend or the questions they were asking me or whatever the case may be. And like I said, they are original thoughts, but, in today's world with AI, it's everything is sort of regurgitated or plagiarized on some level. But, these are thoughts that I had based on kind of what I went through and read. And so I thought we could just talk about them because it's really kind of about, I've been in this energy phase and how do I get my, everybody wants to get more energy and get their shit together and have a good season. And now's a great time for it. And there's little things that kind of, bog us down or kind of get us in the funk maybe or something. And sometimes you hear things, that's about our whole thing all along is, sometimes we say things in ways that might connect. So hopefully today is one of those.
Yeah, I love it. No, I think we all need it's always a great reminder, right? In terms of I think we always, this is kind of when I was reading your list, it was kind of like the ingredients on the packaging. You always want to go out and you want to buy this because it tastes good. You want to buy this because it's good for you. And but you really never you just buy the product name, right? Oh, this is this so-and-so bar, this so-and-so protein mix, or this so-and-so, vitamin, it's supposed to help give you energy or supposed to make you faster or supposed to make you more resilient, supposed to make you stronger, right? All these things, but you never really peel back some of the specifics around it, what's actually inside this. Do you take it with food? Do you not take it with food? When should you take it during the day? When should you not take it? There's ingredients and not restrictions, right? There's ingredients and instructions on how to maximize all things. And I think when I was reading through your list, I was like, man, this is when we look for are the top of mind things. I want to get faster. I want to be fitter. I want to, look better naked in the mirror. I want to improve my run time, and I want to, I want to get faster on the bike. I want to be more aero. I want to be able to swim longer. All these things, we see all this, the top of mind stuff, right? And then you're like, oh, let me go search on Google how to get faster on the bike. And it's like these 3 magical sets to boost your VO2 max, brought to you by the Grand Cycling Network. On YouTube, we're all looking for like sort of clickbait, or buy this helmet for $400, or buy these wheel set for $3,500, or go get aero testing, right? Or do 180 grams of carbon. Now it's like there's never these like small things. Well, before you get there, you need to do this, and this. Or if you do train 8 to 12 hours a week and you are consistent with your cycling and your running and your swimming, like in order to get the most out of those, stop looking for stuff that goes beyond what you already are doing. But instead of like doing that, peel back the layers of the things that can kind of like raise, because that's all, like when I was reading your list, to me, there's always like 2 ways to get better at fitness, whether it's swimming, cycling, running, anything in all sports. It's to raise your ceiling so it pulls up your basement, right? Or your middle zone to get you fitter, or it's to work on your floor and raise it that way. You can either pull it from the ceiling or raise it from the floor, right? Maybe zone 1 is your floor and VO2 max is your ceiling. That's really like, traditionally the way that most people choose to get fitter, right? Either dragging it up from the top, you're doing a lot of top end work, or you pushing down from the floor. And when I was reading your list, to me, it was all about like, it was both ends, but it was so much about like the accessory pieces that we can do to make sure we're just getting something, not something, we're getting more of the output that we're putting in.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah, one of my MOs always with everything is try to make it simpler, or just kind of get to the nuts and bolts of things, and I don't get too wrapped up in precise watt output and things of that nature, because I'm always just sort of looking for, like I said, more energy or just more consistency or more enjoyment from everything. And I think, in those cases, I feel like stuff starts taking care of itself, and that's kind of where I'm coming from with a lot of this list. So I suppose we could just get going.
No, I love it. Yeah, get us rolling with number 1, then I'll do number 2.
Yeah, one of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately is that, we've talked about social media and everything like that, and I've been also thinking about, man, like the emotional like toll it can take and everything like that. So I just number 1 for me was I started thinking of scrolling on your phone as empty calories. It's almost like you're thinking about going into the closet and eating some snacks or something or whatever, and it's like, don't do it. And we were talking before the podcast, and I actually said I think they might actually be negative calories sometimes, too much scrolling, because it can really put you in a different place, kind of like dopamines you up, and then it like drags you way into the dumpster sometimes. So I've really been it's just one of those things that in your gut, but it's just kind of, like I told you before, I think a lot of society's problems are pushed on us, and I don't know if it's always intentional or whatever, but, now we have phones and devices and everything just, right at arm's reach all the time. And it's like, I've told people, like, I just hate phones, but, we need them. And it's just the reason I think I hate them a lot of times is because I'm weak.
Dude,
agreed.
I think everyone would agree with you. They hate to love it and they love to hate it. Mm-hmm. And but we are like, you were so screwed, like we're stuck to it. And I love like the negative calorie piece, right? Because it's a net negative. Like you're putting out effort to get even less. And so it's not like a bad return on your investment. It is like the worst return on your investment. And that's like, I was telling you before we went live, I was reading this book called Buy Back Your Time. And it's just about getting unstuck, reclaim your freedom. And anyway, one of the main chapters is auditing your time. Okay. And basically for 2 weeks, he says, every 15 minutes, stop and write down what you're doing. At the end of the 2 weeks, you should look back and guarantee you can free up like 40% more of your day from wasting your time doing all things you shouldn't be doing, things you should pay someone else to do, or just flat out wasting your time. And how much valuable, and he's like take your salary per year and divide up all this, and like just figure how much each hour of your working day is worth, and then apply it to the time that you're now wasting and see how much money you're throwing away every day. Just in like the value of your time and the value of what we do. And like, so like scrolling through your phone and like putting things off. And then again, like to me, it's not just the scrolling through the phone piece. I don't think anyone would disagree that, phones and social media and content and the ease of which, especially for our kids and their generation, like how easy before their brain is even developed, they're like they're just fucking thrown in the Royal Rumble of things that they're just not even ready to process and comprehend. And then how our mental health has continued to decline, through the digital age, and then when everyone threw gasoline on the fire during the pandemic when we were all shut inside, and then people are just reeling. And so it's not just the negative calorie. I think it's just like the continued state that you put people in because it has like a residual, effect. Like you take a sip of it, to me, it's like coffee, right? But it's, I love coffee, but you take a sip of coffee and like you got caffeine, you got a lot of energy for a little bit. Well, that same negative energy, that same negative calories you just take in with social media or your device or your screen time, it isn't over when you put that away. Right? There's a reason they say screen time before bed causes terrible sleep. You're not even looking at it while you sleep, but you've prevented yourself from getting good quality sleep because all you do is stare at a white screen and see, some kind of light before you go to bed. So it just doesn't end there when you put your phone in your pocket. It probably actually owns and governs your thoughts for hours. And that's fucking scary. Right? So like when you think about like ways to disconnect and things to do, like I love that that's the number one thing, because I think it frees up a whole lot of time and effort and energy to do, the rest of the things you have on your list, which is 2 to 10.
Yeah. And just quickly, I think sometimes for me, at least, it can disrupt a positive flow too. So it's like you're moving one direction and then all of a sudden you're just going to dig a hole going the other way. And it's just kind of that up and down instigator.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, working out in bad conditions can be some of the best race training you can do. I mean, you've been preaching this, I think, 834 podcasts ago. This has kind of always been your one of your biggest things is like, training in conditions that are rough, and like how, soft, we become, and how, conditions alone. And I think it's even like, you could even say like, working out in bad conditions or bad, I think when people hear conditions, they think like pouring down rain, but bad conditions can be brutal headwind, brutal side wind, freezing temps, like whatever it is, like, it could be, you could even say like having to share a lane with 3 other people in the lap pool, like these things that, to me, anything that disrupts your ability to be comfortable in your training. Do you want to do it every day? No way. Right? You just don't. Because at some point, there's only so much you can do of that before you're just like, I don't want to ever do that ever again. And then you only look for like the easy way, the perfect paths of the world. I think we have a podcast about that too. But when you occasionally look for these opportunities, because again, like that's when you remove the expectation. You don't expect to have a great workout, right? But what you're doing is you're kind of putting a feather in your cap of, man, I chose to get out there and do it in the hard conditions. We talked about this, that post Wisconsin years ago. I said, I knew when the weather was terrible, there's a lot of people I was like, I hope they finish. But when you went out there, I was like, he's getting it done. I think you almost like probably look at that and gain confidence because just of how you are. I think it sucked, I'm sure, but like when you like, I have this vision of you, like when you see these hard conditions, you get confidence because other people are kind of losing it, and it kind of gives you a little bit more confidence because of you tend not to shy away from stuff like that. And I think that's a level of like same thing with me and like the water.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? It's like, if the rougher the sea, the better it is. Cause it's not going to make me swim better, but I know that I'm going to stand on the line to get in the water, and I'm going to be way ahead of everyone else just because I've got more confidence knowing, and it probably sounds bad, but because everyone else is scared. And so I've already got a leg up, and that gives you confidence to perform better. And so like, there's ways that we can do that, I think, in our training, periodically, again, not daily, but, periodically, to just toughen and weather ourselves up again in a world where, we're, canceling things for no fucking reason, and we're not getting out there and doing stuff. It's like, it's, maybe the best way to, the question is, when you go out and you see the conditions, ask yourself, would my 8-year-old self go out and do this right now? The answer is probably yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Kids don't care. They don't care. It's like 10 degrees. Hayden's like, I'm wearing shorts to school today. I'm like, what? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I went over my ice cream shorts. I'm like, oh my God, dude. It's raining. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go to school. Everybody out riding your bike. 20 degrees, riding your bike to school, riding home, outside playing. Nobody cares. And the older we get, the more careful we get, and then we overthink things, or, oh man, I might get sick. And like, that's not how it works. And so maybe that's a good rule of thumb. What would my 8-year-old self do? Same thing. Well, I'm not going to go into like the fueling and the water and like, that's just what I was telling Hayden. I was like, you come play outside for like 6 hours in the blazing sun, literally nonstop.
Yeah, and have a sip of Sprite.
Not exactly like a sip of Sprite. Like you might go pound like a Capri Sun in somebody's garage fridge without asking the parents, but outside of that, nothing, nada. But now we're like, oh wait, every few hours we got to have this, or we got to take this one. It's like maybe sending them out. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go play at William's house for the afternoon. I'm like, oh whoa, put on your Camelback.
Yeah, right.
And I'm gonna get you at least 120 carbs an hour with some Gatorade mix. Just make sure I want this empty by the time you get home. It's like nobody does that anyway. Don't mean to like jump, but stuff like that just cracks me up.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things. I totally get it, right? And I'm not crazy about it with my athletes or whatever, but a lot of times it's like, well, I woke up and it was raining outside, so I decided to treadmill, and part of me just cringes a little bit. But I do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It is one of the things. I like what you said about what would an 8-year-old kid do or whatever, because that's what I think about with the phone. It's like empty calories, and that's my thought. So what would an 8-year-old kid do? I mean, like if you can make an association with the weather situation, I think that's kind of interesting, because it sort of maybe it propels you to make the right decision. It's an easy sort of analogy or something to look at. But yeah, I get it. And I have to actually, recalibrate my own toughness in these situations right now, because I have been leaning on the treadmill. It's just so much easier than, running out in the snow. But I love it when I do it, and it's just a habit. It's like I always talked about, just the more you swim, the easier it gets to jump in the pool. And, you said it before, but people spend like 15, 20 minutes thinking about getting in that cold water. But the more you do it, the less it bothers you. And I think that just translates to racing, and it could be any condition, any situation you're going through. And it just teaches you to kind of create that resilience and build that muscle in your brain.
No, yeah, I love that.
All right. So I guess I'll take number three, because this has been on my list lately, because, after doing Ironman so many years, and sometimes it gets a little tricky kind of figuring out motivation, or, it gets harder, and, all that kind of stuff. And I realized, after we got back from run camp and I wasn't in my best shape, and I usually am not, but it's getting harder and harder. And I decided that I needed to lose some weight, not tons of weight, but I actually bought a scale, and I'm like, well, shit, I got to lose some weight. But it wasn't really what I had planned. But I started looking at it going, all right, this is good, because I know that I could be a better athlete and feel better by losing weight. And it just became a good motivation for me. So I said, sometimes weight loss is the best motivation and weapon for better training. Mm-hmm. And because a lot of people, I think, and I don't know, there's a lot of people out there, and I'm sure you've run across them, and you've actually said this to me, dude, you need to lose some weight or whatever, and you get faster. And I'm like, okay with that, and I think a lot of people probably are in that situation, 10, 15 pounds. I mean, that would make training a lot easier, right? And for me, it was become a good motivation. And I just think that, sometimes that, if you're carrying that extra, it's like we always talk about, go out and run around with, 2 10-pound dumbbells or whatever. Shit's not as easy. So to me, that has become the sort of the driving force in a way. And I'm just looking forward to, I've been working out pretty consistently with, as you work with heavier weight and then you start losing weight, I think you're stronger. Everything just becomes easier. So that's just kind of how I'm looking at it, as far as a motivator.
Listen, dude, I got into this sport to lose weight.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I did.
That is how I got here.
Yeah.
I weighed 225 pounds. I was eating like shit. My mom pulled me aside and she was like, "You're overweight." She wasn't that kind. If you listen to this, I'm like, "Mom, it's okay. I've forgiven you." She was like, "You're fat." I was like, "Ouch." And I got, but in post high school, college, kind of in college, kind of not in college, like you don't get on a scale. Like no one does that. Then I got on the scale and I was like, "Holy fuck." And it scared the shit out of me. And I was like, I need to do something. And that's legit how I got into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine at that time had just done Kona, sat at the Logan's Roadhouse in Cool Springs and had lunch. And he told me and talked to me about the sport called triathlon. He was like, you swim, you bike, you run. He's like, with your swim background, from growing up swimming around, you should be okay. Dude, I remember, I've told us from the pod, I remember going to the pool at the YMCA off Concord Road, and I got my ID pic that I kept for 10 years because I was my face barely fit in the picture, and I got in there with these navy blue, kind of white trim swim cargo shorts, like I needed the extra water, the weight holding me down, and I barely made it a 50. I mean, I was roasted. I was so done. But that was the start of, my quote unquote, weight loss, journey was to get into the sport to do it that way. And I don't, weight and food and whatever is a sensitive subject for some people, but, I never think no one's ever, most people, right? And I was listening to a podcast about this. Again, I'm not trying to go back on the food stuff again, but I was listening to a podcast and the guy was saying, he was like, yeah, they're if you look at a marathon these days, the first 30% of the people are running and they're fit and the rest of the 70% are all obese and overweight. And I think that's a little bit over the top, but what he was saying is that she's activity doesn't mean health. Are you sleeping? How much screen time do you have? Are you overstressed? Are you eating correctly? It's not a license to let yourself decay. And so I think using that I've used it that same way before, to using it as kind of fuel to the fire, because to me, as we're in the sport for a long period of time, anything that kind of gets your juices going is good. And, a lot of people could probably lose a pound or two. Or maybe even more. And I don't think that's harsh to say. That's just that. I mean, I've been working extra hard on my own in the last, I don't know, year. I mean, and I'm I don't know, I'm not afraid to say it. I got on the scale a couple of days. I only weigh once a week, but I've been fighting. And as you get older, it ain't that easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been fighting to get out of the high 180s, low 190s for, well, I say fighting. I've been fighting for the last year. I definitely wasn't fighting before, and that's how I got there. But to get into the 170s, and I haven't been in the 170s in over 2 years. And that for me, that's a good, healthy weight. Is that a race weight? No idea. Is it a weight that I traditionally feel really good? Just I've got plenty of energy. I like the way that I look. I got on the scale again a couple of days ago for my weekly, and I was at 180.07. So I'm almost there. I think I've lost 11 pounds in the last year. Definitely it hasn't been super quick, but I've had to put extra effort into it, into doing it. And does that get me out of the door some days? Some, but so I think as long as you've got kind of the right mentality with it, and I'm trying to be healthier overall, then that's a great way. Does it need to be obsessive and where you're weighing every day? Totally not. But, if it gets you motivated to be healthier, because again, yes, weight's a sensitive subject, but there's a pretty good correlation between weight or obesity or body fat and its relation to being more, susceptible to certain types of diseases. So it's not like that's a negative thing either. I think we just sometimes get way too oversensitive about, words like that, when really, our nation has never been as fat as it is right now. And we all know how we got here, but it's kind of, adjusting. And hell, what's his name? I said in the weekly email, Lionel Sanders, who's the age group champion. He did his blood work. He was pre-diabetic from all the shit he's eating. He's a professional. I mean, he races professional. I know that he conducts himself in a professional way from the standpoint, but I mean, like this, and he talked about the constant battle of buying fully bought into the processed food. It's super easy. I mean, I think I said this the other day, I'm trying not to rant today, but steaks cost like fucking $30 now. Oh. And you can spend those $30 and buy like 19 boxes of cereal. It's like, and you wonder how we got here. So yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's an excuse, like we have to work extra hard now, but you just have to be more specific and more disciplined than ever, because the distractions are out there. But I think if that's, you need that to be motivation. I've seen a ton of weight loss success stories and athletes I've worked with. I'm sure you have too. I know you have. And I've never met one of them that was like, yeah, I feel worse now. Let's see. What are we at? You got anything to add to that?
No, I think that's good.
Number 4, mobility and flexibility can be more important than fitness when you're too tight. I mean, the one of the most underrated things in sport, because it all relates to how we move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the easiest kind of conversation to have that is like, there's a reason why people who are coming back from injuries that have a significant impact on one side of their body or not are afraid to negatively impact the other side of their body. Right. Because you put too much weight or too much pressure, you're not running the same, you're not riding the same, my hips out of alignment, I'm taking different strokes in the water. Even if you're not plagued with an injury, if you're lacking in flexibility and you're lacking in mobility, you're still doing that. You're still increasing load on one side while decreasing load on another, which is actually going to probably end up getting you injured. And so I'm 100% on board with that one.
Yeah, and for me, it's just really stood out because, like I said, after doing like 10 or more years of Ironman, I think it's one of those things that kind of sneaks up on people. Like you can keep kind of getting through and pushing through, and you keep doing it, and then eventually you're like, man, I just don't seem to have the same mobility that I used to have, or it seems harder, it seems more tense or restricted and things like that. And I can just tell when I'm taking some time to work on some of these mobilities, whether it's yoga or rolling or doing some stretching and moving around and kind of working, my hips especially. That seems to be where so many people get tight. And just sitting in a chair, all these things, I just think it adds up. And again, because I remember when, Goggins is notorious for stretching like 2 hours a night. Now, whether or not, I don't know, but I remember him saying that he's like, if you can get flexible, he's like, just, think more about, doing stretching and getting your mobility straightened around. He goes, I guarantee you, whatever fitness you are, you'll be faster at your next race, So, and I totally agree with that. I think because, it's just one of those things, like I said, sitting in chairs and being older and kind of not paying attention to stuff. And like you're saying, it's sort of a slow burn. It kind of, your right leg could be tight and it can just get a little bit more out of whack, or, just a microcosm every day. And then suddenly you wake up and you're like, holy shit, I am really unbalanced. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that kind of, I think after several years of doing this kind of thing can really kind of sit you back, So I think it's really important to, it's like we were talking about with the food and stuff. You don't have to I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm not going to shift my diet like into this dramatic zone right now. I'm just, trying not to, giving up sugar a little bit, or all totally or whatever. That could be the answer, right? So, but maybe every day just almost taking 5 to 10 minutes out of your run if you don't have time, just to kind of get a little more flexible and make things feel easier instead of just grinding through all the time. And the next thing you know, you wake up and, because I hear a lot, I'm sore, coach. I'm really stiff. That run I just couldn't loosen up. And, I just think that's the symptom or whatever of not paying attention to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that's how you get hurt and stay hurt.
Yeah. Move on.
Right, number 5.
Yeah, number 5, extra volume can be counterproductive following a bad stretch of sleep. I brought this up because somebody was talking about how they have been sleeping like shit and they went to the pool and they knocked out like half the workout and they said, I just have to go. I mean, we've talked about fatigue many times and there's different types of fatigue, right? And Jeremy, actually, I had a little discussion about that the other day. But this being tired thing, you talk about weight loss too. It's like if you're not sleeping good, you're not going to be able to really lose weight, I don't think, that good, because your body is just storing shit. And it's like, man, I need energy and blah, blah, blah. So I just think about sleep in such a way that, if you're out there running and literally kind of tired, like in your brain, and because you feel I haven't gotten you got bad sleep, to push through that, I think just digs a deeper hole sometimes. And I'm just a huge proponent of sleep. And I think that sometimes, I appreciate the effort from a lot of people, but, to go swim 4,000 when, 500 is like knocking you out, I just think that's counterproductive.
Well, what happens is it usually comes from a place of catch up.
Yeah.
Man, I missed, like I had this athlete who had to take like 2 weeks, like we had a down week, and then after the down week, his wife brought home, some kind of illness, whatever. They both got sick. He was like, yeah, it's really disappointing to have missed, 2 weeks. I'm like, you don't miss 2 weeks. Like you still did stuff. And I said, and even if you did, downtime is good because your legs, your body recovers, and then you're going to have a little bit more snap this week. Probably it's not some giant negative, but what happens is I don't want to make this up, because the same athlete on like a Tuesday, the week he was sick, was like, I felt terrible today, so I'm moving my hard quality bike ride to tomorrow. I'm like, what? No, if we are that sick today, we have to move it to tomorrow. You're not going to be ready tomorrow. Like there is. So I just deleted it and said, you're taking the day off. But yeah, like, it's funny. Like I think we forget when we're sick or we're lacking sleep, like it takes us more energy to do the normal things that we need to do. Right. Like you said, when you're lacking in sleep, it's harder to work. It's harder to stay focused. It's harder to make good decisions. It's harder to have energy to train. And when you do train, it takes more energy to hold the same paces. Right. So you're creating it's kind of the same thing as like fatigue masks fitness. If you're really fatigued, it takes more effort to do the same level of intensity or pace or even duration. So if you're lacking in sleep and you're already behind and you're having to work extra hard, why add more stress on top of the increased stress that you've already either put upon yourself by going to bed too late, or if it just happened from a life circumstance, like kid get up at 2:00 in the morning and this happened. Like there are reasons we are here doing this, and you're feeling this way. So it's, the best thing you do is to do something to help make you feel like you're staying sharp, instead of doing more. And you really have to get that out of your head, in terms of, like I can't, it's not about playing catch up. It's about keeping momentum, and momentum can come from a couple steps. Doesn't have to be from a couple miles.
Yeah. Yeah, just slogging through every workout is not the answer.
I mean, and that brings us to number 6.
Okay.
If you want to be faster, you have to work at it. I mean, this is and people do this like there's this guy that swims at the Hub All. He comes in twice a week, and I think this is very typical of what I think most probably triathletes do when they first get into the sport. He comes in twice a week, He gets in the pool and he swims 33 laps as fast as he can. That's it. And yesterday was getting out. I stopped him and said, "Hey," I said, "Do you just get in every day, or to come in?" He's like, "Yeah, every time I come in here, I got my watch, and I do 33 laps as fast as I can go. And I'm really trying to break my time down." And I said, "How's that going for you?" He said, he said, "It's not going very well." He said, "I'm stuck. I put on 20 pounds." And I was like, "You can't come in here every single day and try to do race pace. Like, you're not going to get any faster. Like, plus you're burning through an engine you don't want to burn through." I said, "What's your pace?" He said, "It's about 2 minutes." I said, "All right, all out pace is 2 minutes. Then next time you come in, spend 80% of your time doing 215, 220, nice, easy swimming. And then, do at the end or the beginning. And then the other half of it, do, 25s at 145 or 150. And if you want to be faster, you have to have the energy in the engine to go faster. And that means going easy on your easy days so you can go hard on your hard. And a lot of people get stuck, like when they work so much in that middle and that gray zone to where they don't sharpen the sword, they end up dulling it and wonder why they can't raise, their VO2 or raise their threshold or get faster or see better times. I'm like, because all you're doing is fucking race pacing it 24/7. Like, leave that. So I told him, I said, for the next couple of weeks, only work above and only work below. That's it. Don't work right at it. And so many people get stuck working right at everything. And it's wondering why, like, you can look at their races and you can look at their training, and there's like a 10-second per mile difference in every effort all the time, no matter what. And you're just gray zoning it. That's it. That's why you're not getting married, you're getting stale. So you gotta take things easy so you can really, really, really rip it off when you're supposed to. And I think that's just a hard thing for people to wrap their brain around.
Yeah. Well, and it also applies. We were kind of talking about a little bit before the cast. What you were saying is there's different ways to work at being faster, and that's obviously one of them. And I think a lot of people have trouble pushing themselves in the pool because of what you were saying. But you have to get uncomfortable a little bit, and it's difficult to do that in the pool. But like, I think about it as a cyclist. I know that's when I try to get faster, is when I'll push those intervals. And I really try to do, and people don't like, high cadence work and things like that. And I don't really love it either, but I always like to stretch myself and really try to push that, because I know those are the ways, right? So, and to me, it's just better than doing it running all the time. It's just, I feel like it helps my turnover, and I don't know, I just get into the trainer rides and pushing those intervals, because I think a lot of times in the pool, it's hard to push yourself to the limit. And I think on the bike, a lot of people don't really know their limits sometimes, or they haven't dug a little bit deeper and realized that it's okay. On a bike, you get on it hard for a minute or whatever, and you can recover pretty well. It's interesting, but like you're saying, kind of mix with cadence, go up and down, push yourself for a little bit, whatever. And flirt with that, aerobic threshold a little bit more, and really find out what that is and what it means to you. Because some days, just cruising along, you might be like, it's just a zone 2 ride, but it's not really, so I think you just need to kind of pay attention to, working a little bit harder in certain situations, rather than just thinking like zone 2 is like a walk in the park. I lose you?
Oh yeah, sorry. There was an athlete I started working with months and months ago, and like one of his first workouts, he was like, "I took this easy," or he goes, "It's the first time I've ever done anything else because I'm always scared to go fast." I'm like, "What do you mean you're scared to go fast?" He's like, "Oh, I'm always afraid I'm gonna hurt myself." And I'm like, "Dude, like we've got this is great news because we've got we got a whole different like compartment to utilize now that we can." He's like, "No, I just always associated like going hard with getting hurt," which is something that you do here, right? But it's never, it's a lot like, overtraining. Yeah, most people aren't overtrained, they're just under recovered. Can you overreach sometimes? Sure, but most of the time it's just if you're not overtrained, you're under recovered. And that's the same thing with like having this, you hear people, I just want to overtrain, because you hear horror stories about it. And the horror stories you hear about people going too fast and getting hurt are the ones who run too hard, too often, all the time, and then don't listen to their body. And that is, so you hear that and like, oh, well, if you go fast, you get hurt. A equals B. No, it doesn't. Like, so yeah, you have to, it's good to go fast. And again, especially, that's why I always encourage on the bike, not because I want to see you fail, not because we're trying to, gain a new PR or a new whatever. It's like just to give you a taste of like, maybe we aren't at your pain threshold. Maybe it's higher. Mm-hmm. And if you can raise your, just like raising our, either raising your ceiling by pulling it up or pushing it from the bottom, like, same thing with your pain tolerance. Everyone has a different pain tolerance. My 9 might be your 5. Your 3 might be my 4. You just don't know. But the more you can work that ceiling to be able to absorb more pain, again, not every day, but know what it feels like to go there, then you can unlock a different level of your performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always talk about it as letting go a little more. It's sort of like we're not, trying to win the 100-meter dash or a 400 or something like that. We're going long. So our fast is always kind of relative, but it's almost like just letting go of the tension and releasing and letting your body go faster in good form, rather than just trying to literally run like a 100-meter dash. I mean, that's when you're going to get hurt too. I mean, I say go fast and, literally if you're going 100%, that's going to be a problem probably on a run. You know what I mean? So I always think of it as like 90%. It's like, okay, I could probably, I always think about this too, is I don't think my top speed, if I did run like a 50-yard dash or something like that right now, is probably not much different than it was 10 years ago. But I can't, hold, 80% as much. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think the whole fast is relative sometimes. So it's like, how much can you hold a faster pace more than that?
Yep.
That brings us to number 7 is getting, and I have faster in quotes, is overrated if you don't have the foundation to handle it. And that's where I'm always at that. Is like, I want to be faster. And I think maybe I misconstrue this sometimes, but when people say they want to be faster, they want to have a better race time, I guess. And that doesn't always mean that you have to be, like a running 5-minute miles or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, can you hold a 10-minute mile longer? So it's not like, are you trying to top end fast it or be able to hold, sort of that medium to upper medium range fast longer, So you got to have the, the foundation, or like you always say, the chassis to hold this.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear that, I always think of like the ridiculous Garmin spit out, the Garmin race predictor based on your 5K. You're like, oh, you're based on your 5K, you can run a 2:55 marathon. You're like, I haven't ran over 6 miles in 5 years. And so you're like, and again, I think this is especially important for athletes to understand and realize, is like maximum velocity is irrelevant if you don't have the maximal strength to hold it. And so if you're a 70.3 athlete and you want your run split to be faster, and you're an Ironman athlete who wants their marathon to be better, for one, look at your swim first, look at your bike next, how fatigued you are coming off it, how glycogen depleted you are coming off the bike. Look at, are you doing the right kind of cycling? Are you doing the right kind of swimming? Are you fit enough to start it fresh enough? And then the next thing you look at is not the speed, but look at how strong you are, how durable you are. Like that's something I've like been diving deep on the last couple months, is just like not the concept, but like ways to measure and manage or even test like fatigue resistance, because that's all it is. We see you have the speed, you can do it at mile 1, but we see you walking at mile 10. So it's either bad pacing or no durability and no strength. The speed is there. It's just your legs don't have it. Like you don't see any, outside of the top like 5%, no one racing an Ironman is walking or slow jogging because they're anaerobic. None of them. You're walking or slow jogging because your legs are trashed. Because you can't. It's not because you can't breathe. It's because you're not durable enough and strong enough to hold it. Because all you do is work on your speed, but you don't have the chassis to do it. You know, I always say it's like putting the engine of a dump truck into a Miata. You're gonna fly for the first 50 yards, and the whole chassis is gonna break apart into smithereens. That's what happens. That is the reason why people their performance starts to degrade, and that's why you always see the athletes who are running the best with the best form are the ones that can hold it the longest. Economy, efficiency, strength. Yes, you can go faster, but here's the other thing: if you have economy and you have efficiency and you have strength, you can actually train hard too, which is going to raise that ceiling, which is going to make you faster. And I think it gets neglected. Again, everybody's obsessed about speed, not how long we can hold it. And again, that comes with volume that's appropriate, and just being more durable and being more strong.
Well said.
Thank you. Number 8, being able to balance the good and bad days equally in your mind is a great skill. Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this one pretty short for me, but I told multiple people this in Training Peaks yesterday. It's kind of going over the weekend. I said, listen, if you don't have a great day and a bad day in the 1 week, the volume's probably wrong. I mean, like every week you should have probably a great workout, a terrible workout, and the rest should be just average. That's pretty standard. If every workout is great, like I even told an athlete this, I think yesterday, I said, if we're this level on fatigue and you're feeling great every time, then it's probably okay for us to up the volume or intensity a little bit because you can handle more. You need to be careful with it, but if you're not having, as long as your life schedule is pretty standard, if you're not having a great workout and then a terrible workout and the rest is kind of mediocre, listen, that is the standard week, right? It's a beginning, it's an end, and it's everything in the middle. Like that's how they should all look. And just being able to go with that flow is also a great skill to have.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is sort of like, just this power and being level and even keel with stuff because, it's sort of like we talk about the best cornerbacks have short memories in the NFL. They might get burned on a touchdown but come back, and if they're dwelling on it, they're just going to keep getting burned. And or if your team has a really a bad game, an outlier or something like that, they just throw it in the trash and move on to the next game. Next up kind of thing. And I think this is what we can do. Not get too high, not get too low. In general, is a pretty good principle to attack training with.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, your core can probably be much stronger. That's one of my favorites.
I know, right?
Because I just think about this.
I feel like you're talking to me right now. That's what I feel like. You feel like you're talking to me right now. I was like, hey, dude, your core could probably be stronger. And you know what? I would agree.
It's at this place, right, where, you can be kind of, maybe you're doing some stretching or you're sitting on the floor watching, some TV or whatever. And then when you get up, if it feels a little bit difficult or you feel like you got to put in some effort, that's a pretty good sign, right? But I always think back to, I think it was Crowley back in the day. I used to watch his core workout, and it was like massive, and I think that, we talk about mobility and stretching and all this kind of stuff. But I think the core is probably the easiest. I mean, we're developing our core, don't get me wrong, while we're doing this stuff and swimming and everything like that. But I just think that, I remember hearing, back when I was a kid, we had this gym teacher. He was out of the military, and he had us doing sit-ups all the time. And he goes, you can do sit-ups, you can work your core every day because there's intertwining muscles. They're not straight or whatever. And they just recover better or whatever. And to me, as I get older, I think that's probably one of the more neglected pieces of everyone's life. And I think it's easy to kind of let slide as a triathlete with a lot of stuff going on and workouts and training like that. But I think it's one of those things where a strong core can take you a lot further than, just making sure you get an extra, 5 minutes, 10 minutes on that run.
Yeah, there's it's just one of those things, right, where it's not, no one is going to give you a lot of likes for your ab workout in Strava,
Right.
but it is connected, and your core is so crucial for swimming, it's so crucial for a cycling position, and it's so crucial for running economy. Yeah, it's like, again, like it goes back to the engine, or excuse me, it goes back to the chassis. Like you got to hold that tight, and if then it causes lower back issues, and it's just all kinds of things. So yeah, address your core. No one ever hates a good set of abs. Number 10, we made it. Ride hills hard. Enough said. It's like, I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was older, but it was about torque and bigger anyway. And he said there was this study done from like the best. This is like 5 or 6 years ago. There was a study done on like all the best cyclists in the world. All of their data collection was taken from Strava, talking like tens of hundreds of thousands of hours, and they found that the one correlation that all elite level professional cyclists have is that they do lower cadence hills more than any other part of the population. In that both like bigger gear work and hill work is the key to being stronger. In that, like doing your hills, again, talk about the safest place to do them. And that's even not just with riding, right? If you're going to, that's why like I will always prefer an athlete. If you're going to quote unquote sprint or quote unquote do, a threshold, if we have the option, I'd rather you do it on a hill. Because it's, for running, it's less impact on your skill systems. You're not going as fast, and you're working all the tendons, ligaments, and muscles that you need to work, versus slamming down your foot on the track every single time or on the greenway. The same thing with riding, right? It is a great thing to do, and the best terrain to do it on is on the hill. And I think everybody loves it. Yeah, there's like, great things you can do on flats, but no, hills are where the money at. They're the money makers.
Yeah, I think back to when we used to ride the trace all the time. That was sort of my thing. I know, we were out, but that was just my, novice approach or whatever. But I think it really always paid off in races. That we get to those hills, and I would be impatient with them. Is a good way to say it. And I think it's also a great way to, if you got a long endurance ride, and you got, sort of hills throughout, just kind of pop them a little bit, break it up and then just get into the recovery mode and then just get back into it. But it's a good way to kind of, like we were talking about, getting faster and getting stronger, kind of mix it up, and you don't have to really think about it too much. It's just there. Yep. It's easy. It's like, okay, there's a hill. I'm going to go get this hard. I'm not going to necessarily ride it this hard in the race, but you're making it, you're getting. I just think that's why I love hills. We always rode them hard, and I don't see hills anymore. I just ride them. It doesn't, like throw me in a funk when I'm riding up on a hill at Wisconsin. I'm just like into it. Let's go get it. And it's a mentality too. I think that's a big part of why I believe in that.
Love it. Ride hills hard. Should be a t-shirt. Thank you for making it through one of our rare top 10s. It's always a pleasure. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
See you Thursday.
Yeah, we'll see you Thursday. See you.
See you, dude.